fastest way to stall your guitar progress is to spread yourself too thin. If you practice everything, you end up getting good at nothing. After over 17 years of teaching, I've seen that the players who actually improve don't do everything. They double down on their exercises that pay them back the most. That's what this video is about. The 3 highest return exercises you can do on guitar. Do this and everything else, your phrasing, your musicality and your confidence starts to improve as a side effect. So here's what we'll cover. The exercise that forces you to apply everything you know, the one that locks in your groove so you don't fall apart in a band, and the one that trains your ear and brain so your solos and songwriting explode with ideas. Exercise number 1. Most guitarists are always chasing something new. A lick, a scale, a song, hoping it will somehow turn them into the player they want to be. But it never really adds up. They forget most of it and the cycle just keeps repeating. All that time and effort results in no real progress. The reason is simple. Learning doesn't stick just because you collect more information. In fact, the more you pile on, the faster you forget. Real learning isn't about how many licks you have collected, it's proportional to the effort you put in. And I believe the most effortful thing you can do as a musician is compose. Because when you sit down to create music, you are forced to use everything you've got, scales, phrasing, rhythm, feel, and connect it into something that actually makes sense. Whenever there's a lick I need to remember, a new technique I want to really master, or when I feel like I've got too many ideas floating around disconnected, I sit down and turn it into a piece of music. So here is what that looks like in practice. For example, here is my attempt to play a solo with just my fingers, Mark Knopfler style. Or here is a short Stevie Ray Vaughan inspired solo I put together. Finally, a John Mayer style rhythm idea I built when I wanted to work on groove and feel. The point isn't to write a masterpiece every time, it's that composition forces you to glue all the pieces together, so they actually become part of your playing. And that's why it's such a high payoff exercise, because the effort you put in pays you back in every area of your playing. So here is your challenge. Take whatever you are working on right now and turn it into a 30 to 60 second piece of music. You will learn more in 20 minutes of composing than hours of mindless repetition. Exercise number 2. A lot of guitarists spend all their time focused on the notes, learning scales, arpeggios, solos. But there is something missing. I see it all the time with my students. They finally nail all the right notes in a solo, grinning ear to ear, convinced it was a fantastic playthrough. But then they catch a look at my face and instantly realize something wasn't right. Because the problem wasn't the notes, it was the timing. On paper it was correct, but without groove it doesn't sound like music. And the reason so many players get stuck here is simple. They are not aware that time feel is what gives music its life. You can play all the correct notes you want, but without placing them in the pocket, it just won't sound good. A lot of players assume rhythm is automatic, something that just comes with time. But it doesn't. If you don't train it directly, you'll always be weak rhythmically. And it becomes painfully obvious the moment you try to play with other musicians. Here is why. The drummer is pure rhythm, and drummers spend their whole lives refining their groove. Bass guitar is also essentially a rhythm instrument. Usually drummers and bass players have the strongest time feel in the band. If we want the band to sound tight, we as guitarists need to work on groove every single day. And that's why groove practice is one of the highest impact things you can do. Because it pays you back on everything. Riffs, solos, rhythm parts, even how confident you feel when you play with others. It doesn't really matter what specific exercise you choose. What matters is that part of your routine is focused solely on rhythm. You might play a groove with the metronome and record yourself, then listen back to check how tight you really were. You might work on subdivisions, you might just step rhythms on your knees. Or you can play along with records and focus purely on locking in. The key is simple. Make rhythm a dedicated part of your practice every single day. Exercise number 3. Most aspiring guitarists know they should work on their ears, but they approach it all wrong. They either avoid ear training completely or transcribe licks without understanding what they are hearing. They copy the notes, file them away, and wonder why it doesn't help with their playing. But here is the thing. Transcription without analysis is just musical photocopying. You are collecting sounds without ever learning why they work. When you transcribe something and analyze what makes it tick, you are not just copying, you are learning how your heroes think. You are connecting new ideas to things you already know, which makes them stick. And you are building a toolkit you can actually use in your own playing. Here is why that matters. When I joined my current band, they didn't give me chord charts or tabs. Just a pile of concert recordings and the assumption I would figure it out by ear. At first I was nervous, but it turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened to my playing. Learning those songs by ear and understanding what I was hearing gave me insights I never would have gotten from reading charts. And it also made me a better performer because now I can play those songs from memory instead of relying on paper. So if you want ear training to actually transform your playing, start by transcribing something you genuinely love. Not what you think you should learn, but something that makes you go, how did I do that? Then comes the crucial part. Ask yourself why it sounds so good. What's the harmony doing? How's the rhythm creating that feel? What makes the phrasing work? Tie it back to what you already know. Oh, that's minor pentatonic, but they are leaning on the flat 7 in an interesting way. Or that's just an E minor arpeggio, but played in a way I never heard before. Now you are not just copying, you are understanding, and once you understand, those ideas become tools you can use in your own playing. And it doesn't even matter if you get every single note correct. The real value is in the act itself, hearing something, figuring it out, and analyzing why it works. Build that habit and you will start to think like the players you admire. So those are the 3 exercises that give you the biggest payoff for your time. Composition forces you to connect everything you have learned into real music. Groove makes every note you play actually feel good, and ear training with analysis teaches you how to think like the players you admire. None of these are flashy, but they pay you back in every area of your playing. If you build your practice routine around them, you will stop spinning your wheels and finally start sounding like the guitarist you hear in your head.